The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. 12 species had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. They sat in a circle looking down at the three humans who stood in the center of the room. The humans looked small, they looked weak. They looked like nothing special at all. Admiral Grace Mitchell stood straight and tall. She was 50 years old with gray hair cut short and eyes that showed no fear. Next to her stood Commander David Park, a young officer with a sharp mind for battle. On her other side was Dr. Rachel Stone, Earth's best diplomat. Rachel had spent 20 years learning how to talk to aliens. None of that training had prepared her for this moment. Arbiter Van sat on the largest throne. He was an insectoid creature with 6 arms and eyes that saw in every direction. His mandibles clicked as he read from a glowing tablet. The species known as humanity is found guilty, then announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. You have broken our laws. You have colonized worlds without permission. You have refused to pay the taxes we demand. And worst of all, you have attacked the collector fleet when they came to take your people. Grace stepped forward. The collector fleet came to take our citizens as slaves. We defended ourselves. Silence. Then snapped slaves workers. It does not matter. You are a young species. You have been among the stars for only 200 years. You do not make demands. You do not fight back. You obey. The other council members nodded. The reptilian representative showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. The amphibian delegate made a wet sound of agreement. None of them saw humans as anything but insects to be crushed. The council has decided your punishment. Men continued. The species known as humanity is here. Banished from civilized space, you will be sent beyond the boundary into the region known as the Dead Expanse. You will never return. Any human ship found in council territory will be destroyed. Without warning, Rachel Stone felt her heart stop. The Dead Expanse was a legend, a nightmare. It was a place of dead stars and poisonous radiation. No species had ever survived there. The council was not exiling humanity. They were killing them slowly. You have 50 cycles to leave, Vince said. After that, the purification fleet will come. Anyone remaining will be destroyed. Grace Mitchell did not cry. She did not beg. She had been a soldier for 30 years. She knew when a battle was lost. But she also knew something the council did not understand. Humans did not stay defeated for long. We understand. Grace said simply, we will go. Council members looked surprised. They had expected crying, begging, perhaps even violence. This calm acceptance confused them, but they did not care enough to think about it. Humans were beneath their notice. Back on Earth, the news spread fast. 12 billion people learned that they had 50 days to leave their home forever. Panic filled the streets. People screamed and cried. Some fought each other for supplies. For 3 days, chaos ruled. Then President Thomas Lee spoke to the world. He stood in Geneva in front of cameras that broadcast to every screen on the planet. His face was tired, but his voice was strong. They want us to die, he said. They have sent us to a place where no life can survive. They expect us to go quietly into the darkness and disappear. But they have made a mistake. They do not know what humans are made of. The panic began to slow. People stopped fighting and started listening. We have 50 days, Thomas continued. In 50 days, we will leave this world, but we will not die. We will survive. we will find a way because that is what humans do. We survive. The Great Evacuation began. It was the largest movement of people in all of human history. Every ship that could fly was put to work. Cargo vessels were converted into passenger ships. Military cruisers became floating cities. Engineers worked day and night, building new vessels from anything they could find. Dr. Michael Tours led the engineering teams. He was a quiet man who spoke more to machines than to people, but he was a genius. In 30 days, his teams built 200 new ships from scrap metal and spare parts. They don't need to be pretty, Michael told his workers. They just need to fly and keep people alive. Grace Mitchell was given command of the evacuation fleet. She stood on the bridge of her new flagship, a massive vessel that the crew had named Defiance. The name was chosen by vote. Every person on board wanted the council to know that humans would not go gently. How many ships do we have? Grace asked David Park. 912. David answered, carrying approximately 11 billion people. The rest, he paused, the rest chose to stay. Grace nodded. Some people could not leave Earth. Some were too old, too sick, or simply too stubborn. They would face the purification fleet alone. Grace had tried to convince them to come. They have refused. Then we honor their choice, she said, and we make sure their sacrifice means something. On the 49th day, the fleet began to move. 900 ships rose from Earth's surface and from orbits around the planet. They moved toward the boundary, toward the darkness that waited beyond. Grace stood at the viewport, watching Earth grow smaller. Behind her, she had been born there, had married there, had buried her husband there. Now she was leaving it forever. Tears ran down her face, but her voice stayed steady. All ship, this is Admiral Mitchell. Today we leave our home. Today we enter the unknown. But we do not go as defeated people. We go as survivors. We go as humans. And one day, I promise you, we will return. The fleet crossed the boundary on the 49th day. Behind them, the purification fleet arrived at Earth exactly when promised. They found empty cities and silent streets. 12 billion people had vanished. The council ship searched for days. They found nothing but a single message beacon floating in orbit around the abandoned planet. The message was simple, just 5 words: we will remember this. Ira then read the message and laughed. The humans were gone, sent to die in the dead expanse. They were no longer his problem. They would be dead within a year. He was wrong. In the darkness beyond the boundary, 900 ships carried the last hope of humanity into the unknown. They did not know what waited for them. They did not know if they would survive, but they knew one thing with absolute certainty: they would never forget, and one day they would return. The dead expanse was worse than anyone had imagined. The first ship died 3 days after crossing the boundary. A radiation storm appeared from nowhere, tearing through the hull of a transport vessel carrying 8,000 souls. There was no time to rescue them. There was barely time to mourn. Admiral Grace Mitchell watched the ship disappear from her screen. She closed her eyes for one moment, allowing herself to feel the loss. Then she opened them again and gave orders. The fleet had to keep moving. Stopping meant death. Over the next year, 63 ships were lost. Some were killed by radiation. Others were pulled apart by gravity wells that appeared without warning. A few simply vanished. their signals cutting off in the middle of normal communication. The dead expanse earned its name every single day. On the Defiance, Commander David Park worked without sleep. He plotted courses through the dangerous space, trying to find safe paths for the fleet. Every time he thought he had found one, something new appeared to kill them. "This place is alive," he told Grace one night. "It's like it's trying to murder us." Grace nodded. She felt the same way. The dead expanse seemed to hate them, to actively hunt them, but she could not say that to the fleet. They needed hope, not despair. Dr. Emily Foster was the fleet's best scientist. She was young, only 32, but her mind was sharper than anyone Grace had ever met. Emily spent her days studying the expanse, trying to understand its patterns. "There has to be something here," Emily said during a meeting. "The council would not send us to a place with nothing. They would want us to suffer slowly, to see hope and have it taken away. There must be planets somewhere." She was right. 3 months into their journey, Emily's scanners found something impossible, hidden inside a cloud of poisonous gas, protected from the radiation by the very thing that seemed deadly. Was a star system, not just any system. 7 planets orbited 3 stars that moved in perfect harmony, and 3 of those planets could support human life. "How is this possible?" Grace asked, staring at the readings. "The gas cloud," Emily explained, "it blocks the council's scanners completely. They never knew this was here. We only found it because we were inside the cloud, not looking at it from outside." Grace felt something she had not felt in months: hope. Fleet changed course toward the hidden system. It took 2 more months to reach it, and 12 more ships were lost along the way. But when the survivors finally arrived, they found something beautiful. The largest planet had blue oceans and green land. It had air they could breathe and water they could drink. They named it Foundation because it would be the foundation of their new civilization. The other habitable planets were named Hope and Promise. The 4 remaining worlds were harsh, but they could be changed over time. The system itself was named Haven. It was their new home. Building began immediately. Michael Torres led the construction teams, turning refugee ships into building materials. Cities rose from empty ground. Farms were carved into hillsides. Schools were built for children who had been born during the journey. For 10 years, humanity focused on survival. They grew food, built houses, and raised families. Children who had never seen Earth learned about it in classrooms. They learned about blue skies and green forests, about oceans so large you could not see the other side. Earth became a legend, a story told to remind people where they came from. But survival was not enough. The older generation remembered what had been done to them. They remembered the council's arrogance, their casual cruelty, and they began to plan. Lieutenant Kevin Walsh was one of the younger officers who had survived the journey. He was 30 years old now. Angry and brilliant, he came to Grace with a proposal that would change everything. "We need to build a military," he said, "a real one, not for defense, for revenge." Grace looked at the young man for a long time. She understood his anger. She felt it herself every day. But she was also practical. "The council has thousands of warships," she said. "We have less than 800 vessels, most of them damaged." "Then we build more," Kevin replied. "And we build them better." Council has not changed their technology. In 10,000 years, they think they have reached perfection, but humans never stop improving. We never stop learning. Grace thought about this. She thought about the message she had left at Earth. We will remember this. It had been a promise, a threat. Now it was time to make it real. She approved the creation of the Initiative for Strategic Development. It was a secret program, hidden even from most of the population. Its purpose was simple: build weapons and ships that could challenge the Council. Michael Torres was put in charge of engineering. He gathered the best minds in the fleet and gave them one instruction: build me something the Council has never seen. They worked for 15 years. They developed new engines that did not need the Council's hyperspace gates. They created weapons that could cut through shields the Council considered unbreakable. They built artificial intelligences smarter than any organic brain, machines that could fight and think and learn. The Council had banned these technologies long ago. They were considered too dangerous, too unpredictable, but humanity had nothing to lose. They had already been sentenced to death. What was one more broken rule? Emily Foster made the greatest discovery. She found a way to fold space itself to create doorways that allowed ships to travel instantly across vast distances. The Council's hyperspace gates took hours to charge and could only connect fixed points. Emily's rifts could open anywhere, anytime. We can appear behind them before they even know we're coming, Emily said with a smile that held no warmth. Thought 20 years after the Exile, the Haven system had become something remarkable. 15 billion humans lived across 7 worlds. 9,000 warships waited in hidden shipyards and in the largest dry dock. Construction was finishing on a vessel unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They called it Prometheus, named after the god who stole fire from heaven and gave it to humanity. It was 3 km long, bristling with weapons, carrying enough firepower to destroy a planet. It was not a warship, it was a message. Admiral Grace Mitchell, now 75 years old, stood before the human assembly. Behind her, a screen showed the completed Prometheus. They sent us here to die, she said, her voice still strong despite her age. They thought the darkness would break us. They were wrong. The darkness made us stronger. And now it is time to remind the Council of what they created. The Assembly voted. The decision was unanimous. It was time to return. The Council patrol ship moved slowly through the darkness near the boundary. Lieutenant C.S. commanded the vessel, reptilian officer who had served for 30 years without seeing any real action. The boundary was quiet. It had been quiet for 3 decades. The humans were long dead, forgotten by a galaxy that had never cared about them. C.S. was thinking about his dinner when the alarm sounded. His scanner showed something impossible. A ship was appearing from empty space. Not from hyperspace, not from a gate, just from nothing. It materialized like a ghost, small and silver, hanging motionless in the void. What is that? Koss demanded. His crew had no answers. The ship matched nothing in their database. Its design was unknown, its technology unrecognizable. It simply floated there waiting. Open a channel, CS ordered. Tell them to identify themselves. The response came immediately, a human voice, calm and clear. This is Captain Daniel Reed of the Human Commonwealth, vessel Swift. We Request permission to speak with the Galactic Council. Kos felt his blood turn cold. Humans impossible. They had been sent to die 35 years ago. Nothing. Survived in the dead expanse. Nothing. Human vessel, Kos said, trying to keep his voice steady. You are in violation of Council law. You were banished. You cannot be here, and yet here I am. Daniel replied. There was something in his voice, something that sounded like amusement. I suggest you contact your superiors. Tell them Admiral Mitchell sends her regards. Kos did not know what to do. He had 12 warships under his command, more than enough to destroy one small vessel, but something felt wrong. This human had appeared from nowhere, using technology CS had never seen. He was too confident, too calm. The decision was made for him. I command. Responded within minutes. CS received direct orders from the Council itself. Destroy the human ship. Destroy all eminence of human survival. This information must not spread. Kos gave the order. His 12 ships moved into attack formation. Weapons charging. The human vessel did not move, did not run, did not even raise shields. Human ship, you will be destroyed, CS announced. This is your final warning. Daniel's voice came back, still calm. You were warned, First Lieutenant. Remember that. The sky tore open. There was no other way to describe it. The blackness of space simply ripped apart, and through the holes came ships, dozens of ships, hundreds of ships, ships larger than anything CS had ever seen, sleek and deadly, and covered in weapons that glowed with terrible energy. And leading them all was a monster, a vessel 3 km long, so massive it blocked out the stars behind it. Its name was written on its hull in letters 100 m tall. Prometheus C tried to give orders. He tried to call for reinforcements, but his communications were dead, jammed by technology he could not understand. His weapons charged, but before he could fire, the human fleet struck Dodd. It was not a battle, it was a demonstration. The human weapons did not destroy the Council ships, they disabled them with surgical precision. Engines died, weapons went offline, shields collapsed like paper. In 4 minutes, 12 Council warships were floating helpless in space, their crews alive, but completely powerless. Daniel Reed flew his small ship past the crippled vessels, broadcasting on an open channel. Tell your masters that humanity has returned. We will be waiting for their response. I suggest they respond quickly. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Admiral Grace Mitchell watched the operation with cold satisfaction. She was 81 years old now, her hair white, and her face lined with decades of struggle, but her eyes were sharp, her mind clear. She had waited 35 years for this moment. Report, she said. General Kevin Walsh stood beside her, no longer a young lieutenant but a seasoned commander. All enemy vessels disabled. 0 casualties on both sides. Our technology performed exactly as designed. Grace nodded. Send a message. The message was broadcast across every frequency the Council used. It was simple and direct. This is Admiral Grace Mitchell of the Human Commonwealth. 35 years ago, your Council sentenced humanity to death. We did not die. We grew stronger. We have returned. We request a meeting with the Council to discuss the future relationship between our species. You have 30 days to respond. Do not test our patience. Message reached the Council within Hours high, Arbiter Vin ancient now, but still clinging to power, read it in. His private chamber, his mandibles, clicked in what might have been fear or might have been rage. Impossible, he whispered, this is impossible, but they. Evidence was undeniable. The patrol fleet was silent, their ships drifting. Without power, then somewhere beyond the boundary, a human armada waited then. Called an emergency session of the council, the 12 species gathered, many of them confused, some of them terrified. They had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. They had never faced a challenge like this. The humans have returned, Vin announced. They have technology we do not understand. They disabled 12 warships without causing a single death. This is not the primitive species we exiled. This is something new. Representative Mora of the amphibian collective spoke first. Then we destroy them. We gather our fleets. We cross the boundary and we wiped them out with what? Vin snapped. They appeared from empty space. They jammed our communications. They broke through shields that should have been unbreakable. We do not know where they are or how many ships they have. An attack would be blind and stupid. The council argued for hours. Some wanted war, some wanted to ignore the humans, pretend they did not exist. A few, very few, suggested actually meeting with them. In the end, Van made the decision. He did not trust the humans. He hated them for surviving, for defying his sentence, for making him look foolish, but he was also practical. He needed to know what he was facing before he could destroy it. We will meet with them, then announced. We will hear what they want, and then we will decide how to crush them. The response was sent. The council would receive the human delegation in 30 days. On the Prometheus, Grace Mitchell received the news. She smiled, but there was no happiness in it. They think this is a negotiation, she said to Kevin Walsh. They think they can manipulate us, learn our secrets, and then destroy us. What do we do? Kevin asked. Grace turned to face the viewport, staring out at the stars that had once been forbidden to her people. We show them exactly what they created. We show them what happens when you try to destroy humanity, and we make sure they never ever forget. Countdown began. In 30 days, humanity would face its former masters, and nothing would ever be the same. The council chamber had seen many things. In 50,000 years, it had witnessed the rise and fall of empires. It had hosted treaties that shaped the galaxy. It had condemned entire species to extinction without a second thought, but it had never seen anything like the humans who walked through its doors that day. Admiral Grace Mitchell entered first. Her white uniform was simple but perfect, decorated with medals that meant nothing to the council but everything to her people. She walked slowly, not because she was weak, but because she wanted them to watch her. She wanted them to see what 35 years of exile had created. Behind her came General Kevin Walsh, his uniform darker, his face harder. He was the weapon that Grace would never need to use, but his presence sent a message. The humans had not come to beg, they had come to dictate terms. Ambassador Rachel Stone walked beside them. She was older now, her hair gray, but her mind was still sharp. She had stood in this chamber once before, powerless and afraid. She was not afraid anymore. An honor guard of 20 soldiers followed them, each one wearing powered armor that made them look like giants. Their helmets hid their faces, but their weapons were Visible, each soldier carried enough firepower to level the entire chamber. The council representatives watched in silent. Some showed fear in their eyes. Others showed anger. Arbiter Viven showed nothing, his compound eyes. Impossible to read. Humans, Ven said, his mandibles clicking slowly. You were banished from this chamber. You were forbidden from returning to civilized space, and yet here you stand. Grace stopped in the center of the room, exactly where she had stood 35 years ago. She looked up at Ven and her voice was calm. We were sentenced to death. She replied, we decline to accept that sentence. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. No species had ever spoken to the council this way. No species had ever dared. You have no right to be here, Ven said. You have no standing in this chamber. Whatever you have become, you are still exiles, still criminals. Rachel Stone stepped forward, activating a device on her wrist. Holographic displays filled the chamber, showing images and data that made the council members gasp. In 35 years, Rachel announced, humanity has colonized 47 worlds. Our population has grown from 11 billion to 23 billion. We have developed faster than light travel. That does not require your hyperspace gates. We have weapons that can destroy your shields like glass. We have artificial intelligences that can outthink any organic mind in this room. She paused, letting the information sink in. You sent us to die. Instead, you created something the galaxy has never seen, a species forged in darkness, species that learned to survive where nothing should survive. Ben's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. This changes nothing. You are still beneath us. You are still young, primitive, insignificant. Grace Mitchell laughed. It was not a happy sound. Insignificant. She gestured to Kevin Walsh, who projected new images into the chamber. These showed star maps covered with thousands of red dots. Every red mark is a human ship. We have vessels within striking distance of every major council world. We have broken your encryption. We have mapped your defense networks. Right now, at this very moment, we could your entire civilization. Chamber erupted. Representatives shouted in a dozen languages, some calling for war, others calling for calm. Then slammed his fist on his throne, demanding silence. You threaten us, he hissed. You dare to threaten the Galactic Council. Grace walked closer to his throne, her honor guard moving with her. She stopped just below him, looking up at the being who had tried to kill her entire species. I am not threatening you. I am informing you. There is a difference. She turned to face the entire council, her voice rising to fill the chamber. 35 years ago, you looked at humanity and saw nothing. You saw a young species that could be pushed around, stolen from, murdered without consequence. You thought we would go quietly into the darkness and disappear. You thought wrong. General Kevin Walsh stepped forward, his voice hard as steel. We did not come here for revenge. We came here to deliver terms. The boundary is dissolved. Humans will travel wherever we choose. We will trade with whoever we choose. We will colonize whatever worlds we choose. Any attempt to stop us will be met with overwhelming force. Representative Mora of the Amphibian Collective stood up, his wet skin glistening with fear. You cannot do this. The council has ruled for 50,000 years. We have laws, traditions, agreements between species. Your laws condemned us to death for defending ourselves. Rachel replied coldly, your traditions allowed you to enslave younger species without consequence. Your agreements protected only those with power. We do not recognize any of it. Vin leaned forward on his throne, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. And if we refuse, if we gather our fleets and come for you, Grace. Mitchell smiled, and there was nothing warm in it. Then we will destroy you. Not because we want to, not because we enjoy killing, but because you left us no choice. You taught us that survival means being stronger than those who want you dead. We learned that lesson very well. She reached into her uniform and pulled out a small device. This is a communicator. It connects directly to our fleet command. If I press this button, 30,000 human warships will begin an attack on Council space. The war will last approximately 6 hours. When it is over, the Galactic Council will no longer exist. The chamber was completely silent. No one moved, no one breathed. But I do not want to press this button, Grace continued. We did not survive 35 years of hell just to become monsters. We came here to offer you a choice. Accept us as equals, trade with us, learn from us. Let us show you what humanity can offer the galaxy, or refuse and learn what the dead expanse taught us about survival. She held up the communicator, her thumb resting on the button. Choose. The Council voted for the first time in 50,000 years. They voted out of fear instead of arrogance. The result was not unanimous, but it was enough. Humanity was recognized as a sovereign power with full rights in the galaxy. The exile was officially ended. Ambassador Rachel Stone would take a permanent seat on the Council. As Grace Mitchell turned to leave, Van called out to her, you think you have one human, but this is not over. We have ruled for 50,000 years. We will not forget this humiliation. Grace stopped at the door and looked back. Neither will we. That is the point. She walked out of the chamber, leaving the Council to contemplate what they had created. In the darkness of exile, humanity had been reborn, and the galaxy would never be the same. The treaty was called the Haven Accords, named after the system that had kept humanity alive through the darkest years. It was signed in a ceremony that was broadcast across the entire galaxy. Billions of beings watched as High Arbiter Vin pressed his seal next to Admiral Grace Mitchell's signature. Neither of them smiled. The terms were simple but revolutionary. Humanity was recognized as a sovereign power with all the rights of the elder species. The boundary was abolished forever. Humans could travel, trade, and settle anywhere they wished. In return, humanity agreed not to attack Council worlds and to share certain technologies with the galactic community. Ambassador Rachel Stone took her seat on the Council 3 days later. She was the first human to hold such a position, and many of the other representatives refused to look at her. She did not care. She had not come for their friendship. She had come to make sure they never forgot what happened when you tried to destroy her people. The galaxy changed quickly after that. Human ships appeared in ports that had never seen them before. Human traders offered goods and technologies that amazed the other species. Human scientists shared discoveries that advanced galactic knowledge by centuries. Some species welcomed the humans. They saw opportunity, partnership, a chance to grow beyond the Council's rigid control. Others feared They remembered the fleet that had appeared from nowhere, the weapons that had crippled warships in seconds, the cold determination in human eyes. In the Haven system, life went on. 7 worlds continued to grow and prosper. Children were born who had never known the exile, who learned about Earth only from stories and pictures. To them, Haven was home. Earth was a legend, a distant memory of where their ancestors had come from. Admiral Grace Mitchell retired 1 year after the treaty was signed. She was 82 years old, and her body was finally beginning to fail, but her mind remained sharp, and her last duty was to address the human assembly one final time. The chamber was packed, every seat was filled, and thousands more watched on screens across all 7 worlds. Grace stood at the podium wearing her white uniform. For the last time, when I was young, she began. I watched Earth disappear behind me. I thought I would never see blue skies again. I thought I would never feel rain on my face. I thought we were finished. She paused, looking out at the faces before her. Some were old survivors of the exile who remembered every moment of those terrible years. Others were young, born in Haven, knowing nothing but the world humanity had built from nothing. I was wrong, Grace continued. We were not finished, we were just beginning. Council sent us to die because they feared what we might become. They should have feared what we already were. She smiled, and for a moment the hardness left her face. Humanity is not a place. It is not a planet or a system or even a fleet of ships. Humanity is a promise we make to each other, a promise that no matter how far we fall, we will rise again. No matter how dark the night becomes, we will find the light. No matter who tries to destroy us, we will survive. The chamber erupted in applause. People stood cheering, crying, embracing each other. Grace Mitchell waved once, then stepped away from the podium for the last time. She died 3 months later, peacefully in her home on Foundation. Her funeral was attended by millions. Ships from across human space came to pay their respects. Even some alien vessels appeared, representatives from species who had come to admire the humans they once feared. But the story did not end with Grace Mitchell. 2 years after her death, Dr. Emily Foster called an emergency meeting of the new Human Council. She was director of Deep Space Observation, now responsible for watching the darkness beyond the dead expanse. What she had found terrified her. We detected this signal 3 weeks ago, she explained, projecting data onto the chamber screens. It came from beyond the expanse, from regions we have never explored. At first we thought it was natural, just background noise, but our computers analyzed it and found patterns, complex patterns, intelligent patterns. The council members leaned forward, their faces showing concern. There is something out there, Emily continued, something vast, something that has been watching us. The signal increased dramatically after we defeated the council. Whatever this is, it noticed what we did. It noticed us. General Kevin Walsh studied the data carefully. He had led human forces for 20 years now, and he had learned to recognize threats. What he saw in Emily's readings made his blood run cold. How big? He asked. We cannot tell exactly, Emily admitted, but based on the signal strength and the energy signatures we have detected, we estimate hundreds of ships, maybe thousands, and their technology is unlike anything we have ever seen. It makes our weapons look like toys. The chamber was silent. Humanity had defeated the Galactic Council, the rulers of the known galaxy. They had thought their greatest challenge was behind them. They were wrong. Ambassador Rachel Stone spoke from her seat. What do they want? We don't know, Emily replied, but they are moving slowly, carefully, but definitely moving toward the dead expanse toward us. Kevin Walsh stood up, his face set with determination. Then we prepare, we build more ships. We develop better weapons. We find out everything we can about this threat. We survived the Council. We survived the Expanse. We will survive this too. The Council voted unanimously to begin preparations. Shipyards that had been quiet since the treaty roared back to life. Scientists who had been working on peaceful research turned their minds to weapons. Across human space, people heard the news and responded the same way they always had. They refused to be afraid. They refused to give up. On the bridge of the newly completed Defiance 2, Captain Lisa Mitchell took her seat for the first time. She was Grace Mitchell's granddaughter, 30 years old, with the same fierce determination in her eyes that her grandmother had carried for a lifetime. Status report, she ordered. All systems operational. Her first officer replied, the crew is ready. The fleet is assembled. We are awaiting your orders. Lisa looked out at the stars. Through the viewport, somewhere out there, something was coming, something unknown, something dangerous. But Lisa Mitchell was not afraid. Fear was for species that gave up. Fear was for beings that accepted defeat. Humans did not accept defeat. They never had. They never would. Helm, Lisa said, her voice strong and clear. Set course for the unknown. Let us go meet whatever is out there. Let us show them what humanity is made of. The ship leaped forward. Followed by 100 others, they flew into the darkness toward a threat they did not understand, toward a future they could not predict. But they flew together, and that was what mattered. In the darkness between stars, something ancient stirred. It had watched the young species called humanity for a long time. It had seen them exiled, broken, rebuilt. It had seen them return and humble their former masters. It had seen them grow from victims into conquerors. And now it waited. The galaxy held its breath. A new chapter was about to begin, and humanity, as always, would face it head on, because that was what humans did. They survived, they adapted, they conquered, and they never ever gave up.